Walmart warns of rising food prices. Apple could lose billions. And Ross doesn't know if he will survive until the end of the year. Three names that seemed unbreakable are all sounding the alarm in 2025.
You guys see how expensive things are now? These used to be like $1.50. Now, they're $3.97.
Guys, I am in Walmart and I am looking for the baby pull-ups. Why are the pull-ups $30?
I think like we're not going to be able to eat. We're not going to be able to feed our families a lot because, you know, with the price going up, people got multiple children out here.
Walmart used to be the place where millions of older Americans went to buy eggs, milk, and medicine, the most basic necessities of life. Ross used to be the choice for families on a tight budget. And Apple, the global icon, is now caught between two countries and a tax war. If these three pillar brands collapse, who among us can still hold on? This is not just a Wall Street issue, but a matter for each state, each family, where a $1 difference in food prices can be the line between having enough to eat and going hungry. In this video, we will highlight the first 10 states that will collapse if this retail crisis continues to spread. Maybe the place you live will no longer have a Walmart store in the next 6 months. If you find yourself having to choose between medication and food each month, then this video is for you. In California, change doesn't come like a storm. It seeps in little by little through the quiet closure of each Ross store, through the empty shelves at Walmart, through each internal Apple memo about preparing to shift production lines. According to the California Retail Association, in just the first quarter of 2025, more than 250 major retail stores closed statewide, the highest number in a decade. In areas like Fresno, Stockton, and Oakland, where people rely on discount chains, this is not merely business decline, it's job loss, loss of income, and loss of a lifeline. A mother shared,
The prices are just too on the high side. It's on the high side, especially for middle class, low income earners.
Walmart's CEO confirmed that the price increases started in April, but they will occur gradually over the coming months, which means consumers will continue to take the hit with each small, unpredictable increase.
Things that I used to buy, don't really buy them anymore, or I cut down on, most of, my list.
This pain is no longer anyone's alone, because in California, more than 17% of the population is over 65 years old, equivalent to nearly 7 million elderly people. When food prices increased by 18% in just 6 months, and imported prescription drugs faced shortages due to new tax policies, many people were forced to choose between meals and medication. Organizations like Meals on Wheels California are striving to provide free meals to elderly individuals living alone. Supermarkets like Trader Joe's have also started implementing a 10% discount policy for customers over 60 years old every Monday, a small ray of hope in the long, struggling days. Additionally, many elderly people in California have been supported by the Papa Health platform, a place that connects vetted young people with seniors to assist with shopping, transportation, or even just to chat together. Such new solutions are somewhat filling the gap left by traditional retail. But the question is California paying the price for its excessive dependence on global systems that it can no longer control? Are you feeling that prices at the supermarket are becoming increasingly unbearable? Which items you used to buy are now left on the shelf? Please share your story in the comments section. And if you think California's problems are already significant, the next part will shock many even more. Texas was once hailed as the retail fortress of America, where Walmart had over 500 branches and a promised land for giants like Apple, Ross, and Best Buy to expand and capture market share. But by 2025, the very place that once experienced the strongest growth is now fragmenting the fastest. Since the beginning of the year, more than 110 Ross stores, 60 Walmart neighborhood market stores, and 20 official Apple retail points in Texas have closed or scaled back. Especially cities like San Antonio, once a consumer hotspot, are now filled with for lease signs in district-level shopping centers. According to data from the Texas Retail Association, The vacancy rate of commercial spaces in suburban districts has increased by 26% in just 8 months. A clear sign that even stable residential areas are becoming insufficient in consumer spending. A 61-year-old woman in El Paso, who worked for 17 years in a Walmart warehouse, said that after losing her job, she relies on SNAP benefits and meals from a local church. "I don't need much, just hoping to be able to buy enough food for the week. But everything is getting more expensive too quickly. I can't keep up anymore." The bigger issue is not just job loss, but the loss of trust. Texas currently has over 4.5 million seniors, but prices in rural areas like Lubbock, Amarillo, or Temple have skyrocketed, while discount chains like Dollar Tree and Family Dollar have pulled out due to lack of investment viability. A paradoxical loop emerges. Stores close because people buy less. People buy less because they lose jobs. They lose jobs because companies leave. And the elderly, those who once built the Texas economy, are the ones left behind. But not everything is hopeless. Non-profit startups like GoGo Grandparent are expanding in cities like Dallas and El Paso, connecting seniors with delivery services, ride-hailing, and in-home care using just a landline phone. No smartphone needed. A small action, but one that maintains great trust. But perhaps we must also ask ourselves, is this the quiet decline of the lands once considered a safe haven, where the elderly believed they would find their final resting place? If Walmart, Ross, and Apple continue to shrink in this state, how do you think the community will change in the next 2 years? And if you think Texas is concerning, the next state will make you not believe your eyes. When a 70-year-old couple has to choose between blood pressure medication and dinner, the crisis is no longer far away. And sadly, that story is happening in the state once considered America's retirement paradise, Florida. Major upheavals in the retail industry have directly impacted the senior community here. From January to May 2025, Florida witnessed the closure of over 190 major retail stores, including brands like Walmart Supercenter, Ross Dress for Less, Target, and even Apple kiosks in B-grade malls. According to the Florida Retail Federation, this is the largest decline since the 2008 crisis. A 67-year-old man living in Fort Myers recounted, "It used to take me just 5 minutes to get to Walmart. Now the nearest store has closed. I have to take 2 bus rides to get to another one. So exhausting, and the price isn't any cheaper." The collapse did not come clearly and forcefully. It comes with empty refrigerators, stores under renovation that never reopen, and arduous trips just to buy a loaf of bread. Florida has the highest population of people over 65 in the United States, nearly 22% of the state's total population, equivalent to over 4.8 million elderly people. But when fuel prices rise, delivery services are limited in their operational areas, and extreme weather disrupts supply chains. The elderly become the most heavily affected group. A combination of rising prices and a crumbling retail infrastructure has pushed many people's lives into a precarious state, even those who have saved their entire lives for a comfortable retirement. Some organizations like FarmShare Florida are coordinating with local communities to distribute free vegetables weekly. Additionally, chains like Publix are also experimenting with the Senior Discount Days program every Wednesday, offering discounts of up to 15% for seniors. A small initiative, but very meaningful. But the bigger question is, are we doing enough to protect those who built America, when even the places meant for their final years are no longer peaceful? Are you or your loved ones living in Florida? Do they feel like everything is changing day by day? Share your voice, because your words can reach thousands who are silently enduring. And if you think Florida is struggling, the next state will make you ponder even more about the future of America. In my entire life, I've never seen food prices higher than the electricity bill. Yet the store near my house is closed, and the bus only runs intermittently now. That was the sharing of a 74-year-old man in Yonkers who used to work as a transport worker. But he is not the only one who feels this reality. And surprisingly, it is happening in New York, one of the largest distribution centers in the United States. Supply chain disruptions are having a noticeable impact, especially in middle and low-income neighborhoods. According to the May 2025 report from the New York Port Authority, cargo traffic at the New York Newark port has decreased by 22%, and container clearance times have doubled compared to the same period last year. As a result, a number of Walmart supermarkets in the Bronx, Albany, and Buffalo are continuously running out of stock, especially imported products such as fruits, dietary supplements, and inexpensive medical equipment. In neighborhoods like Brownsville, East Harlem, or Rochester, where a large proportion of elderly people live alone, having to travel long distances just to buy food is becoming a burden both physically and mentally. Not to mention, New York also has the third highest rate of single elderly people living below the poverty line nationwide, according to the NYC Aging Department's statistics for 2024. When Walmart can't import goods, Apple is blocked from its supply chain of components from Asia, and Ross has to cancel orders due to skyrocketing shipping costs. It is the end consumers who are most directly affected. It's not just a lack of goods, it's a lack of choice, a lack of access, and a lack of trust in a system that was once considered unbreakable. A few small initiatives are trying to patch these gaps. The organization City Meals on Wheels is ramping up hot meal deliveries to the homes of elderly people living alone. Startup Instacart Health has just announced the Senior Essentials Plan, free shipping for people over 65 in areas facing shortages. But on a deeper level, we must ask ourselves, when even the city once dubbed the city that never sleeps begins to lack essential goods, is America quietly falling asleep before a silent collapse? Are you living in New York, or do you have relatives here? Recently, have you had to stop by 2 to 3 stores just to get enough supplies? We would love to hear your story. And if you think New York is a rare case, then the next state will show you that this earthquake is spreading faster than we thought. Michigan, once a symbol of labor and self-reliance, is now becoming one of the hotspots deeply affected by the retail crisis triggered by Walmart, Apple, and Ross. According to data from the Michigan Department of Labor, in just the first quarter of 2025, the unemployment rate in the retail and logistics sectors increased by 2.5%, the fastest rise since the pandemic. Walmart's distribution centers in the Detroit and Grand Rapids areas have been forced to reduce imports from China and Mexico due to new tariffs of up to 25%, causing hundreds of drivers, warehouse workers, and operational staff to lose their jobs. Michigan has up to 36% of its retail workforce aged 50 to 65. That means tens of thousands of people are in a difficult situation of reintegration. Not young enough to compete, not old enough to retire. When Apple halted assembly component orders through Detroit to restructure its supply chain domestically, Ross reduced purchases from distribution partners, and Walmart cut back on imports. The domino effect of job losses, reduced incomes, and rising anxiety began to spread rapidly. However, some local efforts are trying to keep hope alive. The Michigan Works organization is relaunching the 50-plus Back-to-Work program, providing digital skills training and new job connections for middle-aged individuals. Startup Shipt, based in the Midwest, has also started prioritizing the recruitment of delivery drivers from the 55-plus age group, allowing for flexible work, no high-level qualifications required, and earning income by the shift. But the bigger question is, are those who once kept American goods flowing now the ones being left behind as the retail system shifts in another direction? If you're still here, thank you. Really, it's not easy to hear stories like these, but it is your patience and concern that keep such content alive. We make this video not to create panic, nor to blame anyone. We do this so that those who are silently suffering feel like someone is listening to them. Have you ever worked in the transportation, retail, or warehouse industry? How have the recent changes affected you? Please share, because your experience is an important part of this bigger picture. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your loved ones so they can also learn about this story. And now, let's move on to the next state, where just a shake from the supply chain can send the entire community into turmoil: Ohio. There is no storm. There was no protest. Just a factory closing. And many neighborhoods in Ohio are starting to shake. According to the Q1 2025 report from the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, over 7,000 jobs were cut in just 3 months, mainly related to transportation, logistics, maintenance, and retail goods supply. The reason is not in Ohio, but rather in the decisions made by Apple, Walmart, and Ross, which caused a massive cancellation of orders from Europe and Asia, leading to disruptions at the transfer stations in Columbus, Dayton, and Toledo. What is even more concerning is that Ohio is home to a large number of middle-class families who are paying off mortgages, car loans, and children's tuition. When they lose their jobs, even for just a few weeks, many people cannot keep up with their revolving debts, leading to personal bankruptcy and passive migration away from once stable neighborhoods. This is no longer an employment crisis. It is a crisis of spirit, community, and trust. The small shops around the factory are gradually closing down. The elderly no longer have familiar places to buy cheap goods, and the young people are leaving, taking with them the life and vitality of a town that was once full of hope. But in those gaps, there are still some efforts to try to mend the fraying thread. The Jobs Ohio organization is collaborating with community colleges to relaunch the fast-track reskilling program for those over 50. A small but very necessary thing at this time. And then the question remains, have we built a system too dependent on decisions from afar? So much so that even a small change in Washington, Cupertino, or Beijing could cause communities like Ohio to lose an entire generation of stability. If you think Ohio was the turning point, the next state will make you understand why sometimes the collapse doesn't start from an event, but from the silence of a community that is no longer heard. Illinois is not the first place that comes to mind when talking about the retail crisis, but perhaps because of that, the collapse here is more silent and profound. From the working-class neighborhoods of South Chicago to small towns like Peoria and Rockford, the silence is spreading as chains like Ross, Walmart Neighborhood Market, and Target Express gradually scale back. According to the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, in just the first 6 months of 2025, the state lost more than 150 retail stores classified as community anchors. That is, stores providing affordable goods to low-income and elderly residents. At the same time, intrastate shipping costs increased by nearly 18% due to supply chain congestion and the ripple effect of new tax policies from Apple and Walmart. With 1.9 million people over 65 living in Illinois, losing access to affordable options is not just a matter of changing shopping habits. It's about losing the sense of control over their lives. Because when everything goes up, from food to winter coats, the worry of, can I still afford to live independently, starts creeping into the minds of each elderly person. The worst part is, the most neglected areas are the ones that need the presence of the cheapest chains the most. And when Walmart reduced the number of shipments, Apple closed a small warranty center in Springfield, and Ross stopped taking orders in Rockford. People not only lost affordable prices, but also the feeling of being served like everyone else. However, there are still small sparks being ignited. The Greater Chicago Food Depository has expanded its mobile food distribution points by 17 in the affected areas. Additionally, the Clio Care Health app, once exclusive to office workers, has now expanded to users aged 60 and above, offering free remote consultation packages for issues such as blood pressure, diabetes, and sleep disorders. But the big question remains unanswered. When the familiar stores gradually disappear and the once bustling streets become empty, is there anyone left to hear the sighs from the other side of the block? And if you think Illinois is just an isolated case, the next state will make you reconsider the entire system we once thought was rock solid. In Georgia, where the port of Savannah is likened to the logistical lungs of the entire southern United States, any tremor in the supply chain immediately spreads hundreds of miles across the red dirt, reaching small towns where elderly people quietly live on their porches. According to the Georgia Ports Authority, since the new tax policies affecting the flow of imports from Asia, container traffic to Savannah has decreased by nearly 24% compared to the same period last year. Along with that, the customs processing time has doubled, causing Walmart and Ross orders deep into the interior to be stalled, especially in areas like Macon, Augusta, and Columbus. With over 1.6 million people over 65, one-third of whom live in rural or semi-rural counties, Georgia is the state with the largest number of elderly people completely dependent on the mobile retail and intrastate distribution system in the southeast. But when Ross announced cuts to orders from Georgia due to high logistical costs, and Walmart began prioritizing deliveries to major urban areas over small towns, the distance was no longer measured in miles, but in hunger and isolation. Places that used to be able to buy rice, medicine, and hygiene products within a 15-minute drive have now become retail deserts, where everything is more expensive, less available, and farther away. However, some efforts are still taking root in the communities that are suffering. The organization Meals on Wheels Atlanta has expanded its operations down to Brunswick and Tifton. In particular, the CVS Georgia pharmacy chain has begun implementing the Senior Access Express program, delivering prescription medications for free to 75 rural counties, a small initiative, but incredibly valuable. If you live in Georgia or have elderly relatives living in a rural area, do you find it difficult to shop, pick up prescriptions, or simply go to the market? Please share, because every story deserves to be heard. And if you think Georgia is just a small link in the system, then the next state will show you the entire chain being pulled apart piece by piece. Arizona, the dream destination for thousands of retirees each year, is now witnessing a harsh reality. Soaring prices, shortages of goods, and a dwindling retail network in areas once bustling with seniors. It is estimated that in the past 6 months, more than 90 stores belonging to the Walmart Neighborhood Market, Ross, and Target chains have closed or suspended operations, mainly in Tucson, Mesa, Yuma, and the suburbs of Phoenix, areas with a high percentage of residents over 65 years old. In fact, Arizona is the state with the fastest growing retiree population in the United States, with over 19% of the population being over 65 years old, most of whom live in areas far from the city center, without large supermarkets or reliable public transportation. When Ross cut orders because it couldn't bear the logistics costs in the desert region, Walmart began to centralize its goods to major urban centers, and Apple canceled the installation of support kiosks in B-grade malls. The people here not only lack choices, but also the most basic access. In that context, a few new models are starting to sprout up like resilient wild bushes in the desert. Market on the Move, a program distributing affordable vegetables, is expanding to small towns like Sahuarita and Casa Grande. The Banner Health System is also collaborating with pharmacies to deliver prescription medications for free to seniors in areas without retail pharmacies. But then the question arises, just like every time, and this time it's even harder to answer. If in a state where retirees flock the most, the elderly still have to choose between braving the weather or skipping meals, what kind of society are we building? And if you think the desert areas are dry and challenging, then the last state on this list will make you truly feel the cold. Not from the weather, but from the system that was once considered the most stable in the United States. Once a place that made the whole world dream of partying, now it forces many older Americans to consider whether to have lunch or save money for their medication bills. Nevada, especially the Las Vegas area, has long been known as a low-cost, sunny retirement destination with accessible entertainment. But that was before Walmart closed 12 stores, Ross stopped taking more than 60% of orders from the Western region, and Apple significantly reduced services at local repair centers. Worse, while prices rise, choices decrease as retail chains withdraw from low-profit areas, places where many elderly people live on fixed incomes. Ross used to be where many seniors here bought clothes and household items at affordable prices. Now, the goods are fewer, the prices are higher, and the choices have become harsh. When even Walmart, the symbol of shopping for everyone, is no longer present in poor areas, the elderly are left with only one thing: to fend for themselves. When chains like Walmart and Ross gradually withdraw from unprofitable areas, the elderly not only lose their familiar shopping places, but also their spiritual anchor, the stores that used to be places for conversation, meeting acquaintances, and feeling like they were still part of society. In the midst of hardship, there are still a few glimmers of hope. 3 Square Food Bank, the largest food organization in the state, is distributing free food at over 40 locations in Clark County. The Smith's Food and Drug System is testing a free home delivery program for low-income seniors in Las Vegas. And then, what left many people speechless was not the price, but it was the feeling. We are no longer part of anyone's service plan. And that is the story of 10 states that are in turmoil. Not because of a disaster, but due to the silent withdrawals from retail chains that were once the lifeblood. But the scariest part is, we might have gotten used to this decline without even realizing it. We just passed through 10 states, from sunny California to arid Nevada, where retail chains like Walmart, Apple, and Ross were once an indispensable part of daily life, but are now becoming silent pieces withdrawing, leaving hard-to-fill gaps in the community, especially for the elderly. Those who once built this country, former workers, teachers, drivers, technicians, are now standing amidst empty shelves, store closing signs, and an uncertain future. And the most concerning thing is that many of us have started to get used to it. But should we accept it? Can America continue to be the land of opportunity if access to essential goods also becomes a privilege? If you are experiencing something similar, or have loved ones silently suffering due to prices, due to shortages, due to the loss of familiar stores, please share your story. A comment, a share button, may not change the world, but it can make someone feel seen and no longer alone. The content of this video is not intended to criticize any individual, business, or organization. All data, figures, and examples in the video are based on publicly available reports at the time of creation. Our goal is to provide a reflective perspective, to spark discussion and community awareness. Amidst the millions of pieces of content out there, the time you take to listen is something we deeply appreciate. Keep following the channel to face real issues together, with empathy, clarity, and hope. See you in the next video.